All right, guys, welcome back. Check it out. Here's our experiments. Look at how good my crayon resist was. If yours isn't good like that, do it harder. And I got all, ooh, look at, can you see how pretty the sea salt looks? You can see these little halos. So pretty. Let's have it, the moment of truth. Check it out. Look at that awesome plastic wrap texture. I love that. It's like icicles or something. All right, I think the alcohol turned out super. My glue stick finally appeared. Let's brush off the rice. Ideally, we would put this right into the trash, okay? But I can't move, so I'm gonna put mine back on my tray. And you can see some of the marks and the absorption that it created, okay? Here's my crazy experiment, and here's crazy experiment number 2. So, our objective is to pick out our favorites and figure out which ones we're going to use, but you have to think about the order of operations, okay? When you take algebra, we have the order of operations. So grab your work through sheet, turn to video number 3, reflection, order of operations. We have to kind of classify everything to see where they would be. We're going to create the order of operations, and then you're going to figure out your order of operations, and then our final objective is to take all these guys, combine them into one gigantic piece using our favorite techniques, and then the following class we're going to draw on top. We're going to use that as our background, okay? So let's work through this together. Wet on wet, early or late? You answer in your head, right? Wet on wet is got to be the first, if not, you know, one of the earliest. Wet on wet. You're going to wet your paper and then add it on, okay? So this second one is crayon resist. Crayon resist has to be the very first because everything's white, right? Now, when I say crayon resist, I want no symbols or letters or anything that I can identify because I want to keep my background abstract. So this is not time for the peace sign or the anarchy symbol or anything, your initials, class of 2020, none of it. I just want like dots, dashes, whatever you can think of, but nothing recognizable. So that's got to be our first one before we even put that wet on wet, okay? So our third thing we made was toothbrush, and that can be a later technique because you could do stuff on top of toothbrush, but you could also have stuff underneath. Sea salt too. Sea salt is like, we'll call this the middle. Sea salt can be really anytime, all right? Now dry brush, you really have to plan. If you want to use the dry brush, you could do a whole bunch of stuff first and then blow dry it. We're going to have blow dryers out, have a perfectly dry background, and add it. So I'm going to say that dry brush is later, but make sure your paper must be dry, okay? Now I wish it was so cut and dry, but you just have to, literally, you just have to kind of figure it out for yourself. Everybody's going to be doing something a little different. So if you're not sure what your order of operations is, then we'll talk, okay? Plastic wrap. Plastic wrap has to be last because if I have a giant piece of plastic on top of everything, how am I going to add stuff, okay? So last is plastic wrap. Now I will tell you, you could use plastic wrap in just small areas and then do stuff where the plastic isn't, okay? Blow, that can be in the middle. Alcohol could be in the later middle. Glue stick would have to be early. Okay, glue stick would have to be early. Rice could be later. So you'll figure it out. You'll plan what your favorites are, okay? So now, let's take some time. Let's look at these. We're going to cut each one of them apart, and we're going to glue them into our sketchbook, okay? So let's take some time. Let's cut them apart. Let's glue them into our sketchbook, okay? Thanks.